Well, yeah, we have Portals and Passages by Nuix, and I can show. I could start like while a few more people are arriving, and then Nuix gets theoretically a slightly bigger crowd.
All right.
How's
Works for
that?
me.
Yeah, and then
Cool.
we can go into GR15 and then open microphone.
Perfect.
All right. Let me share my screen here. How's that?
It's working. I can see it.
Cool. Yeah, so let me show what's changed in Loot MMO. So we're still in the social hub, and I've been polishing this section of the experience up to the maximum, kind of using a vertical approach. We have the 5 free daily bags here. The stats are all working for the items. Need to put the greatness number on these cards, but that's it. And the named ability is something that's going to come later. I have a design for that, but it's going to be in version 2 the game, maybe early next year or something. So that's a big system. It's coming later. Let's see. This one's pretty cool. All right, so I added these portals because Core suggested that we would take over their home, like their landing page for a few days. And so I branched the project and added these portals, which are like kind of like the most active Core games and stuff. So this is part of the concession to get that like ultra. It's like the best premium placement on the platform. Basically, it would be to replace the landing spot where players come in, right? For the launch. The other thing that I've added is this quest you can see on the left side. The UI still needs a little bit of polishing, but there's a fully functional quest system. You can go into the mailbox. Dear Loot MMO, you're one of the first adventurers to visit our lodge. Welcome. Builders are still redecorating, but we hope you feel at home. We found a giant treasure chest which seems to have a never-ending supply of reward points. So we placed it here for everyone to enjoy. It's big and golden, so you can't miss it. The lodge is magically protected, so the beasts can't get in. However, there has been an accident with the spell, and the map of adventures has stopped working. Not to worry. You're not stuck in here. We've opened 10 otherworldly portals at the entrance while we sort through the mishaps. Safe travels. So I added this message kind of like because some of the pieces are not complete, and I had to pull some things out of the game for the core takeover, right, that you're seeing here. So I changed this messaging in this letter and pulled some of the incomplete systems out. And this is the treasure that is kind of a core thing as well that they asked me to add. And you get reward points every day, at least a good retention for the players. So I completed that quest. There's another quest for bartender duty. Oh, and there's also a big flat screen TV there that we can show whatever we want. This was also a suggestion from Core that we could show our trailer there. So we have a trailer coming. I wanted to show it here at Town Square, but it's not 100% ready yet, unfortunately. All right, so that quest completed. There's a couple more. So there's a really fun one, and we got we did a play test yesterday and got dozens of people in here. It's really fun with the chair throwing. So there's a quest for that, for hitting people with chairs. But I can hit myself. There. And that completes the quest. And you can come here and press T to watch the full screen. And we've added this room over here. Now these doors, they're not going to be open like this. Also part of the temporary setup for the core takeover is I left these doors kind of half open like that. And the reason they are like that is because when you're coming in this direction, you don't see the opening. It's intentional that it doesn't draw attention. So you go to the right side, but then when you're circling around, you'll see them. And you might adventure in here. There's nothing to do in here. There's nothing interactive, but this is going to be like the potion crafting station and the weapon crafting station over here. So kind of three-dimensional user interface, basically. And then we have some space we can expand to if we want to add more craft. There's plenty of space. This is actually kind of big. The artist kind of overdid it on the scale. It's a huge cauldron. I don't know. Maybe it's cool. I like it. It's pretty, but it's kind of larger than I had originally imagined. It looks great. Added these shelves over here. So there's one for warriors, one for hunters, and one for mages. And each of these books you're going to be able to take out, and we can put lore here. The book will come into the foreground, and you can like flip the pages and put some of the stories that people have been writing. And but also it's going to be used for the study system. So when you level up the character, you want to add stars to your abilities. You would take, like, I'm the warrior, so I would take like a warrior book for the ability that I care about, and I come and sit down somewhere, and then interface shows up. So I can pick the ability and level that up. And then there's two more quests right now. There's one for playing the pinball game. So Balls of Steel, you go up here and there's a little pinball machine. You can play that. And there's one for poker. So they're ordered in a way where, like, the poker one, you must have other players playing with you. In order to complete the quest, it's the only one that requires other people, other than the chair throwing kind of does as well. But not everyone's going to guess that you can hit yourself. So this is the social hub. This is what's changed. The map is over here. So there is a quest that I turned off, where you find the map pieces and you assemble this map, and then you go outside. You go on your first adventure and you beat up some raptors and little dragons. Get some XP, level up, and you come back, do your first craft. So there's a quest for crafting that's also disabled. Crafting system's not anywhere close to complete yet. So that's kind of the next priority, like inventory system and crafting system. Those are the two big systems that are missing for the framework to be complete. Once we have the crafting and the inventory, and this is your stash over here, you'll be able to use the stash to swap items between your different characters. So you have if you have a healer and you have a rogue, and you find a rogue item with your healer, you can throw it in your stash here, and then later when you come in with the rogue, you can grab it. So that's kind of the stuff that's missing. And something else that we've done a lot of work on is marketing, planning, and roadmap. So this is the ER14 page. You see some of y'all's projects here. And go ahead and scroll through that for the call. Show everyone. So yeah, kicking off the funny round. And I'm gonna go in here because there are some dates that I don't quite remember. Let's see. So We're aiming to complete the framework, version 1 of the framework and tools by the end of October. So that's coming up fast. From October 3rd to 14th is a boot camp. So I don't have a sign up form for that yet, but that's coming pretty soon. So folks here or anywhere can sign up for the boot camp. We're going to have a limited number of slots. That's the date range. And then kind of at the tail end of the boot camp, overlapping by a day, we might adjust that. But I don't know. There's a reason why this date was chosen. But from October 13th to November 14th is the game jam. And we have at least 5K allocated for that. Probably more. I'm going to try to get this up to 15K for the rewards. And the rewards are for like different categories. So that's something we're still figuring out. And then when I have a design for those categories, I'll throw it in here for the community to give their opinion, give you all's view on those categories. But the basic idea would be we have a kind of a wasteland category, a town, I don't know, a storytelling category, kind of a NPC, dialogue type of category, maybe a boss fight category, I don't know. Different things like that. And then people will create these experiences for the game jam, submit them, and the best ones for each category get the prizes. And then we come in here and we stitch them all together. We connect them to the adventure map. And yeah, that's the plan. So that's the date for the game jam. This one's pretty certain. It might move forward by a few days, but it's going to be before the end of the year. We will, and so after November 14th, right? So end of November and early December, we'll be doing the work of connecting those game jam results to the whole experience, making everything like one big thing with shared progression, with shared resources. Someone was already asking me about like farming and crafting and house building is something they want to do for their jam entry. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Do it. And we can take those same resources like wood or stone or whatever and have them as part of the greater experience for everyone else. And one more thing, I can't remember. We'll just skip. That's what I wanted to show. Thanks, everyone. Any questions? Let me know.
Standard, should people organize for that game jam in your Discord? Is that where that should happen? Or can happen? Is there a spot for that?
Yeah,
like
that's going to be in the Loot MMO Discord.
Okay. Like if I have an idea for something, but I don't necessarily have the core, the ability to like work in core, I can find someone.
Yeah, we've seen the best results are teamwork, like 2 people usually, 2 or 3, and get the best jam results. But you could, if you have, a little bit of time, you could come to the boot camp and learn how to use it. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I'll get the form and I'll send it out, and then whoever is able to can join.
Is the core? I forgot what you called it. Like takeover. Is that after the game jam, or when is that?
It was potentially going to be today.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we're not sure about that yet. So I'm waiting. I'm in holding for that. Similar to the trailer. So there's a lot of pieces moving. Have a long marketing campaign planned all through like next year. Starting to put that together to really ramp up the product. We'll probably do another takeover at some point as well. So we would do one now, maybe, which we might skip. We might not do it this time. And then we'll do one when we have version 1 ready with like all the games from everyone, right, from the community. We stitch them all together, and then we do a big takeover with like get all the players in, full experience. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'm just trying to think of how, how you could tie it into the broader lootverse, like not, just from an awareness like standpoint of like, the lootverse is big. Is this MMO game takes place in the lootverse, but this is kind of like just a part of exploring, this wider lootverse in all these other projects.
A great point. Definitely.
Because I think that's going to bring a lot of traffic to Loot MMO, and I don't know if people necessarily will have questions of like, what is loot? They might just think this is a cool, little world that's being built. But
I think that's part of the intention for what I've always wanted, is that people can come in without knowing what loot is, and they might not know for a while, and then eventually they can learn about loot. And I think that's the approach with the mass market audience, folks who don't even have a wallet type of people. They might have never heard of Web3 even. There's billions of them out there, right? So this is the target audience. And also Core is launching on mobile pretty soon, as soon as they can, as soon as they fix all the bugs. And so that is going to broaden the audience by like 20 or 40 times larger audience on mobile. I do think, your point is totally valid, how this ties in. I was thinking about those bookshelves, right? This is where to answer that question, I have solved it so far by those bookshelves, right? And then if there are more ideas, I would love to hear them. But, I'll put the lore and references to the greater lootverse on the books in the library. All right.
Standard, as you're talking about takeovers and partnership type stuff, it strikes me that Loot itself has never actually tweeted anything, which is pretty funny in a year. And part of that's been a coordination challenge and a permissionless paralysis type thing that, like, because Loot's open, nobody feels like, even myself included, feels like I can speak for Loot. But that said, I mean, that was year one. In year two, it could be kind of cool for when Loot first projects launch, for us to, like, essentially let that project take over the Twitter handle for a day or two. When Realms Eternum launches the game, of course, they should take over the Loot Twitter handle. When you guys launch Loot MMO, you should take over the Twitter handle. We could maybe even do that as just like a playbook. Because then instead of it being like someone speaking for Loot, it's more like a builder speaking through Loot. And the Loot Twitter handle probably has a lot of bots that follow it, but it does have a lot of followers, like tens of thousands of followers. So just alongside for supporting that, I wonder if we could do the same thing with the Loot handle.
Yeah, do you think it would be a 2-week takeover, something like that? 1 week?
I think it's something shorter, so it's like you can speak through it, so it feels like, hey, I'm taking over, or this project is taking over the Loot project handle for the next 48 hours, and like here's a bunch of content, from this project. And then it's back to basics, because what we've done with the Loot handle is just retweet stuff. I mean, we've retweeted probably, I don't know, hundreds if not thousands of posts at this point, but Loot's never actually said anything. And so this could be a cool way to unlock that.
What about like you submit a Google document with X number of tweets, something like that?
Could. No, there's something powerful about being like dynamic and alive, and when somebody responds back, you via the Loot handle can talk to them about things.
Oh, okay. So they would have a direct access.
Yeah, and like you could host a Twitter space even through the Loot handle, that kind of stuff.
All right. I am seeing this. Yes, that's making a lot of sense. Are we going to use that for the Twitter?
That's a great idea.
Are we using that next week?
Yeah. Let's use that for the Twitter too. Good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we could actually.
It's funny. I mean, there's a world where Loot could have a team, and obviously you guys have heard my voice a ton, and Andrew's voice a ton, and Glosso's voice, and Standard's voice, but Loot still doesn't have like a coordinated team, even like community management team, any of that stuff. But I think for year 2, we probably should do a little bit more of that, and this might be a nice, like, easy way to ease that concept in.
That could be related to the sustainability, just having a standard way of operating.
Okay, cool. Well, that was just a side note, but let's definitely do it next week for the Loot ecosystem grants thing on Twitter, and then we can do that for Loot MMO and Realms, and really, like, let's say any major project that launches in the Lootverse on their launch day, sort of alongside their launch, giving up the keys to the Loot handle to be able to play with it to a trusted person for a couple days seems like a cool idea. Okay, I think you're transitioning to the next topic.
Yeah, let's go to portals and passages. Hey, Neewix, microphone's yours.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Standard. Hey, everyone. Very glad to be here today for an update on the project. Let me try to share my screen, and you should see the presentation. So, very quickly, a reminder on the core concepts of the project for those who are not familiar with them. Can you see the screen? The presentation?
I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So first, some visual atmosphere, which is something I showed last time, so that you get in the atmosphere of the project. So the concept of portals and passages, and I'm passing a few of the slides that are in this standard presentation, is to be a building block for movement across on-chain worlds, across places like parcels of lands, territories, or even eras in on-chain worlds where there is a cohesive chronology, for example. And since the beginning of the project, all the thinking, all the concepts, we put it in the universe of Loot, and it draws from deep Loot lore. So I'm going to pass that because that's what I presented last time in April or May. But if some of you haven't seen that and want to deep dive in it, it's a public presentation, of course. And so, very quickly, the characteristics of portals. So it's an NFT collection, really in the CC0 composability mindset. The idea is that it's fully on chain, and any builder, any project, any community can leverage it to build anything based on it, like quests, for example, in between different on-chain worlds, which by nature are not connected or partners, but where some different territories have those magical portals connecting them. So that's really the concept. So there is this whole backstory with the characteristics of the portals, and they come from powerful enchanters and different lineage of enchantment, and they have a magical gem pouring them, and some have more than one facet, meaning they can connect to more than one other portal, etc., etc. And it's just an update, so you'll let me know later if you want to get back to the basics. So the update I wanted to show is on like a zoom on two core concepts, which were not really fine-tuned at the time of the initial presentation I did here in Loot Town Square. And so I fine-tuned them a lot over the last months, thanks to a lot of conversations and feedbacks. And by the way, thanks to all those of you who answered my message or gave suggestions on that front. So the first concepts I'm going to zoom on is the locations of these magical gates. So there's been a debate with maybe some of you participated on should a portal be located only in one territory, or can it somehow magically coexist, one given portal, in different territories? And that's what we chose, that one given portal can be located in one or even multiple on-chain worlds at the same time. But in a given on-chain world, say realms, for example, a given portal can only exist in one parcel, one given territory parcel. And this is to ensure a wide geographical distributions of those entities. So examples of on-chain worlds which could be connected through these magical portals, realms, crypts and caverns, and you have question marks on the bottom of the slide. But for example, and we only had a very beginning of a discussion with them for now, so it's nothing set in stone. But we started discussing with Merlin the Blue, for example. Some of you might know. It was a suggestion of Thripwave, by the way. And we reached out to Legend Maps. Maybe some of you know them and their project. And so the idea would really be to find some project or community or universe where the atmosphere, the mindsets are compatible in some way, and reference them in the portals and passengers contract, so that a given portal could have a location in those worlds. So from a strictly technical point of view, it's referencing a new on-chain world doesn't need any action or agreement even by another project, but the mindset with which we want to conduct this is to connect, establish contact, and find good connections before doing so. So that's important. And a key concept of these locations is that holders of portals are going to set themselves the geographical location of the portal in each of the referenced on-chain worlds. So I think that's quite interesting to do that, because it will really create a user-generated geographical distribution of the portals, and it's kind of exciting to imagine that it can be geographical distributions which we don't expect at all. But it also makes things technically a bit challenging on some aspects. So that's about location in on-chain world. So sorry if it's not 100% clear, maybe in my explanations. It probably needs more fine-tuning, at least in the communication. But conceptually and technically, it's rather stable now, this front. Now, a second aspect I wanted to zoom in is the visual rendering. So we really want to make portals fully on-chain. So they are going to be defined and exist as characteristics, as data. And of course, to make things cool and appealing, we want to have a visual of them. So you have like a combination of a number of atoms and prototypes and simulations and early scripts that you have on the screen. So we have a mock-up generators that generates this. But the idea is to go a bit beyond, because we have this specificity of having portals located or connected or part of different projects, different universes across time in the project. And so we thought that it could be really cool to align with that if there could be different visual renderers for portals that users could choose from. So that if they identify themselves more close to this universe or that universe, they could switch the renderer and display or check out their portals with different visuals. And so to do that, it's also a bit challenging on the technical side, but we have a plan. We have a technical design. The idea is that we are going to deliver the first two visual renderers, which are going to be what I call classic portal atmosphere. It's the visual you have on the right. And OG loot, which is gonna be the black card with the white writing in it. And we're gonna open the possibility for anyone else in the CC0 mindset, general mindset, to submit, to develop and submit other visual renderers based on the portal characteristics. So there's going to be a spec. There's a spec actually of the portal interface and portal characteristics that any Web3 developer can follow to develop a renderer and submit it, and we're going to be able to deploy it, add it in the referenced renderer in the contract, so that any portal holder can switch to that one if they like it. So the idea of that is to make it possible in the future to reference new on-chain worlds, new projects that pop up or that we connect with, and we discover that they fit right in the atmosphere, and it would be cool if there could be portal there, etc., etc. So we could reference them as possible locations and enable them to submit their own renderer if they want, etc., etc. So yeah, that's maybe a bit technical, or maybe a bit confusing, I don't know, or maybe a bit exciting. I hope so. And I wanted to zoom in on these two aspects. So that's on the update on the concepts of the project. Now on the stages. So on the concepts, we are now quite stable. We definitely closed like somewhere in July the phase where we asked everybody and everywhere for a lot of feedback and ideas and tried to brainstorm a lot on all this. So now it's really stable. We think there's a coherence that it makes sense. We opened a number of discussions with other projects. Some it's for having a cohesive story within Loot and maybe make portals known in the community. Some it's project outside of the Lootverse for extending the possible on-chain worlds where portals could be located. So that's an ongoing work stream. And the technical development is ongoing. That's a number of aspects which are developed already, but others not yet. And we are moving much slower than we anticipated. Also because we made beginner's mistakes, and we developed things that finally ended up not being the right concepts, and that we changed, etc., etc. Also due to IRL obligations that we didn't entirely foresee. But it's in progress. It's hard to give a delivery date. I think we made the mistake. It's a mistake to announce delivery dates, and we did that several times in the past months. I think that's a mistake because it's too difficult. So I think now, for some time, we will not give a delivery date until we are much more clear on when we will be able to properly deliver and deploy the production contract. and we are not there yet. But yeah, well, that's an ongoing effort. That's everything I can say. Yeah, and that's it for the update I wanted to give, and I'm really happy if some of you want to discuss some specific point or have questions.
Thanks for that, Newix. Yeah, it's looking good. Would like to hear more about your upcoming stuff, you know.
What do you mean? Sorry.
I mean, just no, sorry, I didn't mean anything specific. I meant, yeah, I'd like to follow along and see your updates.
Yeah, and you're right to say that, because over the past 2 months or so, I was a lot less communicative on the project. Like in April, May, June, I tried to make efforts to communicate statuses and animate a bit the Twitter feed, etc. But like, it's not my nature, because I'm an engineer, and that's not like a natural reflex for me to do that. And somehow, with some different challenges arising here and there, I spent a lot less time on the communication and tried to shift all the energy I had on the development, which is also because the concepts became a bit more stable, and I wanted to implement them and get closer to production. But yeah, I think I need to force myself to communicate more. So I try to resume that and share status updates.
Yeah, that's been a challenge for me as well, which hopefully we can all overcome those problems.
Yeah.
Not having an organization that
no, but thanks again for
yeah.
Of course, but thanks again for reaching out on in DM and asking me for a status and this update today, because somehow it forced me to put my thoughts together and pick a couple of topics to zoom in and do this update and etc. And definitely that's at the right track.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right. Any more questions for Newix? Throw it in there. Let's see what's next. Are we, anybody want to talk about Gitcoin grant round?
Yeah, I can speak to it. And I'm also drafting up a post in the Loot Owners channel right now as well. So as you saw in the announcements, we just launched the second ever Lootverse Gitcoin ecosystem grants round, which is a mouthful. What that means, though, is that the loot owners who have a very small treasury from royalties that come in from loot sales over the past year, I think the trickle of royalties into that treasury is like an ETH a week or something like that. So obviously not nothing, but not super meaningful. But the loot owners control that treasury and vote on that treasury. And we've now done 2 rounds. One was last quarter. We did a 75 ETH grant round to the Gitcoin ecosystem fund, GR15. And I'd say it was pretty successful. We had 19 proposals. You can look back on it and see what those grant proposals looked like and how it all shook out. And inspired by that, and inspired by the energy that created, we just launched the next second Lootverse ecosystem grants round. It's a 50 ETH matching pool. It's allocated through Gitcoin, so Gitcoin handles all of the legal, all of the KYC, all of the coordination and financial stuff, because Loot doesn't have a DAO that can handle that stuff. So I think Gitcoin ends up being a really powerful and easy system for that. It's got some pros and cons, and we can get into that maybe in our Lootverse sustainable advancement call. But it's been working, and so we just launched it. I've been working on this, I guess, for the past month, teeing it up, but it just launched yesterday. So if you go to gitcoin.co and then click around on grants, or if you go to the Discord here, you can see a link straight to it. I think so far we have 21 grants with like 2 or 3 pending. So when all is said and done, we might have 25 to 30 grant proposals in this round. Again, it's 50 ETH set up as a quadratic funding matching pool. And the TLDR of the way that works is that anybody, not just loot holders, not lootverse people, not loot geeks, but really anybody who wants to see the loot ecosystem succeed, and anybody who sees loot as sort of a public good for the wider Ethereum network, and even loot as a public good for Web3, loot as an invitation to builders and creators and writers and thinkers and geeks like us, loot as a bridge into this universe, and loot as maybe an entry point for a different way of thinking about composability and the powers of the blockchain. So for anybody who sees that vision and who believes in that, anyone can go to gitcoin.co, find these grants, find the Portals and Passage grant proposal, find the Bibliotheca Realms proposal, find the Violet of Vitriol, Villain of the Lootverse proposal, find the Genesis Scrolls proposal, loot MMOs in here, and whatever 17, 18 others, and donate. And even just donating $1 goes a long way. I sound like I'm a TV fundraiser kind of guy. Just donate $1 today. But what's funny about this is that it's not only donations and grants from the wider ecosystem, but essentially it's putting our money where our mouth is to say, hey, I'm voting with my wallet, even if it's only $1 for a handful of projects, $10 here, $12 there, whatever, because the Lootverse Fund then matches those grants, and not only matches them dollar for dollar, it uses quadratic funding so that a combination of the amount that a project gets in grants and the number of people who vote for it, and they have to be real. You can't use bots. They have a ton of bot control within Gitcoin. But the amount of funding, and probably weighted heavily more towards the number of humans who actually go and vote for something with their wallet, it ends up allocating that 50 ETH grant matching pool that we've created to builders, again, through quadratic funding, so that something like Portals and Passages, maybe if it gets 100 people who each collectively donate $1,000, Loot might match that with $7,000. And that math is, if you even just go to Google and search for quadratic funding, there's a couple sites that explain how that math works. But it's pretty cool and it's pretty effective. I think it's pretty native for the Lootverse because Loot doesn't have a formal steering committee and doesn't have a formal DAO and doesn't have a formal budget, and doesn't really have a mechanism to reward contributors or a mechanism to do anything for contributors. The Gitcoin model, I think, works really nicely because contributors can raise their hand and say, hey, I'm building this game and I want some support, or we're building this primitive, or we're building this public good, or we're building this character, and we'd like to both spread the word about it, but also get some support to allow ourselves to spend serious time working on this thing. Loot in general, I would say, is people working out of the love and the vision and the energy we all get from building this shared sort of decentralized fantasy universe together, and maybe the long-term hope that it does really create new and exciting value in the world, as opposed to people who are paid as contributors. But I do think a little bit of grant funding can go a long way, especially since a lot of people here have lives and jobs, and you need to allocate your time and your to-do list. And so having a grant model like this, to me, is exciting because it allows someone to say, hey, I want to spend some time writing deep and meaningful stories for the Lootverse, and I don't want to do it just for free. I will do it for free, but maybe if there's a little bit of grant money, it'll make me get more serious about it. Or, hey, we want to launch this project, and Loot MMO, I think, is a perfect example. We want to launch this Loot MMO, and we'd like to amass a small pool of grant money that we can then give out in game jams and give out to the community and use to bootstrap this project. Same thing goes for the Genesis Scrolls project that I've been pushing. Let's use these grant proposals and grant funding while it's limited. Let's use that, plus also the generosity of external funders, to then create a pool of ETH and more to be able to give to writers and say, here's no strings attached to writers to come bring this universe to life. So anyway, a lot of words here. You handed me the mic, and usually that's what happens. But I'm excited about this because I think it's a nice test for the Lootverse, and it's happening right now. And so the call to action on all this is, if you believe in Loot and you want to see Loot succeed and you want to see this fantasy world come to life, there are people who are putting themselves out there, raising their hands, saying, hey, I want to spend more time here. A lot of that has been manifested through this Gitcoin round. And so you showing up and saying, hey, I see you, and I'm going to donate to your proposal, even $1 or $2, and maybe even comment on your proposal with thumbs up, attaboy, I believe in this, or Q&A or whatever. That kind of energy really does go a long way for builders. And also from a quadratic funding standpoint, again, like here, I'll click on one, like Glosso's emergent art proposal right now. If somebody donates $1, the current quadratic funding has Loot matching that with $23. If somebody donates like $10, it probably matches it with $40. So quadratic funding is kind of funny in that way, but it's really meaningful. And I don't want to speak for all the builders. I think all the builders here who are on the call who have grant proposals can speak to their own. But I wanted to tee it up with sort of a blanket vision for why we're doing this. Some of the pros and cons, which again we can get into in the next one, the pros and cons of a Gitcoin model versus a prop house model versus an actual DAO model. But this is what we have right now. It's live. It's live for the next 14 days. And pop into gitcoin.co, click around, and show your support. Before we dive into, I think we're going to hand the mic to Foolish and Glosso and anybody else here who has a proposal. Andrew, before we do that, anybody have any comments or questions about this? This is a small group today, so this is mostly for the recording. But anybody have any comments you want to throw in? No? All right, then how about you, Glosso? Do you want to take the mic? Talk about yours.
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. Okay, cool. I have a habit when I talk in front of an audience to talk fast and use a lot of too big words and exaggerate. So,
hey, me too.
Right. You're kindred spirits. Yeah. What do I? Okay, this should work. Let's see. Y'all see this? I actually don't even need to screen share this, but I'm showing my grant right now if it's coming up. Yeah, so I'm still got to edit this thing to make it a lot kind of more concise.
We see your Discord. Yeah, we're seeing your Discord screen.
Oh, LOL. Okay, well, I'll just talk about my grant. Okay. Yeah, so since August 2021, since Loot Drop, but actually for about a year before Loot Drop, I have been kind of thinking a lot about all of this movement towards huge groups of people building really big works of art together. And I spent a lot of time trying to put that into a very, very simple kind of language so that people can understand it and also build a kind of larger movement. So, yeah, it finally has kind of come into something that isn't just babble, which I presented like a month ago, and then have started sharing with communities in the art world and the digital democracy space and the network state space, believe it or not. So that's this whole kind of idea of emergent art, and it's resonated a lot. And I think there's just a lot of work to be done for helping people understand what loot is, because it's really, really hard to talk about because it's totally new. So my grant proposal is precisely for that. The last Gitcoin round played a tremendous role in my young life, and so the money for this would free me up more time to kind of scale and accelerate that work. I will say that there's a lot of extremely exciting things in the books being planned, but it's very sadly too early to announce them. So that'll maybe come out in the coming months. Yeah, and then the last thing I'll say is that the last grant proposal was for me to do music on top of kind of loot and in the hyperverse. That is still my kind of plan, but I have realized how much kind of like foundation level work there is to do in actually being able to talk about this stuff and to build, all of these, like, I guess, layer one primitives first. So the musical work is something I'm kind of planning on doing a little bit later. So yeah, there we go. I think that wasn't too hyperbolic. Thank you. That's my little spiel. Yeah.
Yeah, I caught your grant here on my recording. So if my recording works this time, finally, we could use that.
Great. Thanks.
Well, we're open microphone now, right? If anybody has anything they'd like to talk about, now is the time. Step up.
I could do a little show and tell on Metaloot, if interested.
All right. Yeah, take it away, Jin.
Sweet. Okay. Pretty impromptu here, so let me just make a tab to do a live demo as well, and then screen share. Okay, cool. Okay, y'all see my screen?
Yes, looks fine.
Awesome. So just earlier this week, the M3 Avatar Introp group did field trips and talks, and I also gave a presentation to OMI Group yesterday. OMI Group is Open Metaverse Interoperability Group. It's one of the working groups, also part of the Metaverse Standards Forum, and it was all about wearables demo day, show and tell yesterday. Really cool group. Yeah, I got Metaloot equipped to a whole bunch of different base meshes. And, Avatar Introp is a pretty deep research subject. And what this weekly meetup is all about is we do live field testing, experimenting with the avatars, wearables, animation systems between game engines and virtual worlds, and then provide, useful feedback to these other working groups like MSF, OMI, in which there's a meetup today about GLTF extensions. So got a lot of projects in progress, but I really want to kind of talk about loot within the group, because it's a CCO project, it's decentralized, and it's also bringing us down to LOD 0 level of detail, what if there's a command line interface to the metaverse? It's not just the canonical form of our wearables traveling between platforms, but the traits, and this is just a way to kind of visualize such. Got, them equipped all to different avatars like chain runners, yetis, CloneX, some crypto avatars. Here's my CloneX robot geared up with Metaloot. And I really want to do some cool virtual productions and content creation where we're traveling between all sorts of different virtual world universes together, with the same kind of character cast and wearables. So kind of like a visualization of such. We're gearing up, assembling a crew, and then we're going to take a great journey across all these different metaverse platforms together. And now we're geared up. Last minute call, we're gonna get ready to do some filming today in VR chat. So if you want to join Metaloot crew and make some content with us, reach out. If you reach out before and I was slow to respond, do it again. Maybe it was due to brain fog early in the mornings, didn't have my coffee yet, but always down to collab. And this was all shot in Hyperfy, by the way. Here's like one of my favorite places in RuneScape that was ported into there. And I'll show you how easy it was to basically upload your avatar into there. So you're in here, which, by the way, this is also working in the browser through WebXR. And it's kind of like a VR chat in your browser. You've got chat, you got voice, you even got screen sharing, by the way, which is really epic. We could have like our meetups here, as our Metaloot characters. Instead of Discord, we could be, RPGing and stuff. And another cool thing about Edgeville is it's near the Wildy where people would PvP. So like we kind of use this as a area to kind of just think about like how cool would it be if like we brought in our custom avatars and had like mobs to kill or or PvP each other. Anyways, I drag and drop a VRM file into the browser, and right then it shows me some like performance stats about the avatar. And if you're on a lower end computer or connection, you could change the settings so that basically avatars that exceed your personal settings can be switched with something else. And this is all pulled from VRChat settings. But yeah, drag and drop and equip. It's that easy. I don't think people would appreciate that until they go through like the 26 pages of documentation for uploading an avatar to Somnium Space or downloading an SDK and trying to upload something into VRChat and finding out that they can't unless they build up a trust rank. But here it's like easy peasy, drag and drop. And this works like that in Webverse as well. And, any kind of questions? I can just drop the link here if anyone wants to drop in.
So is there not like I'm just learning how to code, so I might sound like an idiot, but is there not like a kind of universal, buzzwords, data standard, I guess, for like visualizing avatars in different like VR worlds? And I guess
the best avatar standard that's the most interoperable with as many worlds as possible is VRM. And it's built on GLTF, which just became an international standard, but VRM was designed with interoperability in mind from the very beginning. It basically can pack the license, term, and like provenance, all sorts of metadata within the file itself. So it doesn't have to be decoupled from the token. And there's already hundreds of different applications that you could bring it into, which you can see the big list here. And this differentiates with Ready Player Me in that this isn't a permission SDK to get access to all these apps. This is a file that you can drag and drop or import into here, and it'll just work. And it's not just virtual worlds, it's also, VTubing and other stuff as well. And so is there Cloud Sim? Yes, there is. And actually, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because in Unity-based apps, a lot of people will have to buy a plugin for dynamic bones in order to get sort of like clothes and hair physics and stuff, whereas on the web, it just comes out of the box and just works. And, we're equipping these things manually right now, but we are building avatar builder programs, very easy like Ready Player Me, but open source, so you can upload maybe like a void or whatever base mesh that you want and create your own collections, all UGC, wearables and avatars. We need more 3D assets for this, but all the kind of foundations are working, and we also have something to crank out stuff. It's more of a dev focused tool, but for now we just want to also create proof of concepts, and I love Hyperloot. I haven't seen previews of the 3D stuff that they're working on yet, but I would love to collab with Hyperloop more when they make 3D assets. And, you know, these 3D avatars don't have to just be your avatar. They could be your companions. And Webiverse actually makes it really easy to add AI to any kind of like VRM avatar and then turn it into an NPC. So one thing I was thinking of was like putting NPCs around different worlds, and maybe they represent different quests for bounties and stuff. So like on DWork, it's like a Web3 Trello GitHub kind of integrated awesome app, and you can look up open bounties here, and we 3D modeled all of the emojis for all these skills and whatnot, but I was thinking each of these different skills could be like an NPC in a world. And you walk up to that NPC and then it's like, hey, do you have any kind of quests for me? And then it like brings up maybe a quest that's like an actual real world quest, you know? So we kind of gamify open source software development that way. You know, instead of just like gathering herbs or something, you know what I mean? Or killing mobs, like making open source, like making the internet into an MMO, essentially. That would be dank. Where are y'all? I don't see y'all.
Yeah, it could also be cool for like Genesis scrolls or like loot lore story to pop up in one of those quests too.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm just like so obsessed with this work. How does Webiverse kind of play into all of this?
Webiverse and Hyperfi were both practically incubated by M3, which is a virtual hackerspace that I run. And so, yeah, they are both all red-pilled on many of the kind of ideals and principles of open source, interoperability, open standards, and we all like collaborate together closely. So we're kind of all aligned here in this far side of when it comes to avatar interop, we want to kind of show stuff that's like almost ready to go. And Hyperfi and Webiverse both support VRM avatars, just dragging and dropping into the browser. Webiverse is more like future vision. Like there's a lot more that you can do. Like you could equip a sword and start slashing stuff, or a gun or whatever, or vehicles and start riding them around, or having pets or AIs. So there's a lot of that going on, whereas Hyperfi is sort of scoping it down to really flesh out the sort of VR chat on the web experience. And if y'all aren't acquainted with VR chat yet, y'all should be, because it's the #1 social VR app with custom avatars and custom worlds. And there's a growing scene in there for indie virtual producers making movies, films, game shows, and other types of content, because basically everyone in VR has motion capture, through consumer VR equipment. So people are making movies and whatnot. And one just came out. We Met in Virtual Reality on HBO. If y'all have seen that, it was doing really well in film festivals. And so that's where we build a lot of VR studios. And we want to build something that is owned by the people, though, because it's a company, and no telling what might happen to all that content, if VR chat goes down. This here is Wildy. I don't know how many of y'all are RuneScapers, but I would hang out here all day as a kid. And
hey, let me ask you a question. Is there a way to invert the mouse y-axis? I'm one of those players.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, no, I don't even know if that's a bug report. I'm one of those where this is perfect, but hey, we could add that as a setting. Inverts for sure. No problem. There's some stuff here. And a cool thing about Hyperfi, so also in terms of alignment and whatnot, I've been working on ways that we could all align these projects together. And Hyperfy scenes can now be loaded into Webaverse. So anything that you build in here can automatically be imported into Webaverse. So there's a lot of really cool interoperability stuff going on. And some cool worlds if y'all go and check out the Explore tab version of the site. And you can bring your avatar with you when you do. Here's Uncanny Alley, which I'm going to be jumping into the VR chat version of this in a couple of hours.
Jen, you going to do a Gitcoin grant for that?
I would love to. I would love to do something in which it was like, you know, I've been, I formed this group earlier this year. So, but you know, it's way more fun to do science wrapped in art. And I think the ultimate art I want to do is virtual productions with all these kind of characters, kind of like thought of as the dressing room. So we equip all these NFT avatars and avatar-based meshes from all sorts of projects together and create virtual productions with so many different crossover characters, but all strung together with the same wearables that, you know, loot. So we can red pill everyone on, you know, ideas of interop and composability and on-chain art and permissive licensing that like Loot has, you know, in virtual worlds. So some kind of cool public domain script that's ready to go would be cool. I was thinking, I don't know, Snow White or King Arthur, something like that. And then we replace all the characters with, you know, characters that we create or from different projects. Actually, the Avatar Introp repo has a lot of these assets here. I'm just going to drop it in the chat. If you want to download stuff to test with, you know, this is kind of like our hackerspace storage shelves. So if, you know, you're working on a project, you can use the same ingredients that we're all using in our projects, you know, whether they're animations or avatars or wearables. It's all located here that you can just pull and, you know, start hacking on. And yeah, it seems like Uncanny Alley's got like a sort of building a robot army. I kind of think of all these characters all coming together sort of like in that Smash Bros. World of Light story mode, where it's like this giant overworld map with art from all the different worlds of these characters. I want to draw that overworld map. Probably start scrapbooking some ideas. But yeah, we meet every Tuesday afternoon, 8 p.m. Eastern now. And Mondays are virtual productions meetups. But we also do filming and shooting throughout the week, such as today and Saturday and Sunday. We're going to be doing some motion or animation interop experiments where we meet up in VR chat or Neos VR with people in full body tracking, and then we test if we can bring those animations from VR chat and Neos into Webaverse and Hyperfy and other places. And I already kind of like tested out this pipeline. It should work. Like here's some like animations that were like free to download because it's all using Mixamo from VR chat. And I brought it into Webaverse. And I just kind of noticed right away, it was like, whoa, we both have radial menus to do emotes. And I just kind of hacked this together one night. Yeah, highly recommend we do a VR chat field trip one day. I can show y'all some of the really cool spots, kind of like location scouting, you know, and what they do in real world film production. I do a lot of location scouting in VR chat and follow people who take really awesome photography in places. But, you know, it's a way more collaborative environment to do previs and animation rather than traditional animation techniques. And I have a whole devlog on various animation interop experiments. But while we're there, we're going to be capturing our performance and animation so that it can be basically remixed infinitely. You know, imagine a movie that we record and then people can add in their own characters or alternate endings afterwards. You know, it's like remixable open source like movie development, because it's like combined with game engine, real-time tech. And we release the animation files in such a way that people can retarget them to any kind of avatar. All very possible. Just need a good script, which that's something I could use some help with or recommendations if anyone's interested, as well as concept art. You know, storyboarding is really important. Like, we can't just like overlook traditional like, you know, ways of doing productions and whatnot. So if anyone is interested in like virtual productions, I did start, it's pretty scrappy, so don't judge right now, but a awesome list for virtual productions here. So if you want to kind of like dive into the process, there's a bunch of links kind of ordered by importance, because I do recommend checking out the glossary and the Unreal Engine hub. They have a lot of useful information and you know, a couple of field guides to familiarize with what this really is. And just imagine, you know, what we're doing is a fully 100% digital version of what they're doing, you know, because they have these massive kind of like studios where they replace green screen with video LED walls. And that way, you know, there's less work to do in post, and you basically can compress like post and pre, because real-time game engines give you like really good results in real time. Here's like an example of a virtual production studio. So we have this kind of stuff in virtual worlds, and we can just literally shoot in virtual worlds with really good camera systems. And you'd be shocked like how good stuff can look in real time in free platforms like VRChat. And especially if we capture that animation, then we can render it in Unreal Engine if we want to, or the web, you know, total freedom. And you don't need a VR headset to join us, by the way. You just like, you can join on desktop if you have Steam. But Mac users are kind of lucked out because they don't have Steam. And here's some like a look at these video screen walls. They use that in The Mandalorian. Really awesome. But yeah, that's all I got. Medloop is coming together real nice, and we're finishing up the website. It is going to be pretty epic, because it'll be, you know, anybody will see, like when they connect their wallet, they'll see their synthetic loot represented in like a nightstand, and then be able to acquire it then. I don't know if I showed this before, but you know, this is going to be kind of like how the experience looks when you connect your wallet to the site. Doors open up, and then you see your loot bags represented as treasure chests, and those are things that you can claim, and then your synthetic loot kind of like in an armor stand. All very work in progress at the moment, but pretty excited how it's coming together finally. And yeah, we just hack in the M3 Discord. So if interested, M3.org, what is it? It's a virtual hackerspace, a lot of projects being worked on there, not just one. And the whole mantra is teach, learn, build. So like, this is kind of our 3D link tree of things that we're interested in. We got like MetaLoot over here. And yeah, later Glasso. Got a Hyperloop poster here as well. I agree, Nick. That's why I'm big on the web, because the web has most devices. the most democratic medium. Anybody's able to publish to it. And that's what M3 kind of specializes in. We make 3D websites, and I guess this is really emphasized by how our website, it has like 3D websites inside 3D websites. Cool. Cheers. Well, yeah, I'll be jumping in VR chat later. If anyone wants to add me and kind of tag along, you can send a friend request to .jin in VR chat and join off me. We do need more screensavers. Wait, there is a screensaver for pipes right there. It's a little laggy, but yeah.
All right, thanks, Jin.
No problem.
For showing us around. That was fun. Slightly disorienting with the y-axis, but not a big deal.
I'll put in a bug report, no worries.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we're good today. I think we'll call it. It's been an hour and a half, and yeah, thanks everyone who presented. Any closing remarks? Oh yeah, so I did want to remind the next week it's going to be the Twitter space. We'll post details about that.
Sweet. Thanks for leading, Standard.
You're welcome. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.